Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Postin' Black, where we celebrate Black excellence behind the lens. We are excited to bring you another episode today, sponsored by our title sponsor, the Dolby Institute, and our supporting sponsor, Avid. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you guys for tuning in. We have a very amazing episode today. We have editor Chassidy Jade. Chassidy, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing amazing.
Come on, I done made it to Postin' Black.
You done made it in the building. No,
we've
been admiring your work from afar, and you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's
so
exciting to have you.
excited.
Yeah, we thrilled. We're going to jump into all the things because, you literally just got here.
Literally.
When this airs, people are going to be like, what? But no, you literally just got here, so
Yeah,
appreciate it.
for sure.
But we're going to jump in just to find out a little bit about you. We're going to do an icebreaker.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
I'm cool with that.
Okay. So if you had a mentor and you had an opportunity to ask them anything, who was your mentor and what would you ask them?
Oh, man. I don't know if I'm excited or if I'm going to get in trouble.
Oh, that was all right,
Jesus. I would probably say Christian Wagner.
Okay.
He is kind of like the first editor I feel like that I've admired or felt like I kind of related to his style.
Yeah.
What would I ask him and not be nervous about? I would just ask him how he developed his style, because it's very choppy and kind of like unorganized but organized. Like he did Man on Fire, for context, for people who may not know. And then he went on to do like Fast and Furious and all those different things. But how he was able to make things kind of choppy and fast but still keep like the beauty of storytelling.
Man.
I would probably ask him that.
That's beautiful.
Hey, Christian.
That's what's up. Come on. Shout out to Christian. And Man on Fire is one of my favorite films. One of my dad's favorite films. My dad would repeat this all the time. He'd say, I wish you had more time.
Man,
that's he repeat all the time from Denzel. Classic
People
film.
don't be talking about that line from Denzel like that.
That's fire.
But
that's a classic line. I wish you had more time.
Exactly.
Legit. Come on, you certified. We done.
I love him.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, come on, tell us a little bit about yourself. I detect a twang. People who are watching may see, but those who are listening may detect some southern roots.
Absolutely.
Yes, tell us about yourself. Where you from? Where'd you grow up? All of that.
Yes. So I was born and raised in Delray Beach, Florida, which is about 45 minutes outside of Miami, and also Memphis, Tennessee. So my parents are military brats, so that's how they met. A lot of people are like, Memphis and Miami, that's
a mix.
How did that even become a thing? But military brat, they met in the military. Both of my parents are military, so that's kind of why I get the best of both sides. I also lived with both of them in both cities. Wow. I grew up in Delray most of my life, and then I went to high school in Memphis, and I live there now. So my accent is all over the place. I could sound like Plies, or I could sound like Glorilla. It depends on who I'm talking to and what day of the week it is, and how much Crown I've been drinking. I don't know.
You are.
So yes, those are my origins. Southern island girl is what I say.
Okay. Yeah. So you're not, a lot of people we talk to come from these, metropolises like New York, Atlanta, or are based in Los Angeles. We're going to jump in a little bit. We'll talk about where you got to, but what was it like growing up in Memphis and even, as a high schooler now working in entertainment, being based in Memphis? What's that like?
Yeah. I mean, what a lot of people don't know about Memphis is it's a very creative city. I think a lot of people know it for its trap music, like 3 6 Mafia and obviously Glorilla now. And then even going back to like the Isaac Hayes and the Aretha Franklins, like it's a very creative music city town. And that's one thing that I really appreciate. And I wish the media kind of talked more about that, because, I mean, that was the first time, even coming from South Florida, where I saw Black people in high positions. I was like, wait, the mayor is Black? Like the judge is Black? The police chief is Black? And that may not be something that we think about, but, even in South Florida, it's very diverse. You get all types of different types of people, but there's a certain group of people who still run everything.
For sure.
We don't necessarily have those liberties as Caribbean, Latino, African people.
That's real.
So Memphis is very creative. And there's a lot of people even in the city now who kind of have come back. So a lot of your favorite musicians and favorite artists, if you look in their band, if you look in their media team, if you look at their graphics person, especially musicians, they're probably from Memphis.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
That's real.
But, I wish we just promoted more of that. So
that's real.
I love it. It's an amazing town. It's a great place to stay creative because we don't have as many resources. We're always trying to build it ourselves.
Yeah.
So you organically get these Black entrepreneurships who are just making things happen.
Yeah.
And who kind of have, obviously we live in the South, so it's a little, cost of living a little cheaper. So you can do things more and bigger, and you can be more flexible with how you invest.
That creativity comes from like, you don't maybe have all of it, so you create it and try to get it out there and make it yourself.
Absolutely.
And, inspired by a lot of different things, I feel that, the same thing you're talking about with seeing a lot of Black people, being in the D.C. area, growing up when I was younger, it's like Marion Barry was the mayor of D.C., Black man. My girlfriend's from Atlanta. And so, you kind of have similar, you're like, man, D.C., Atlanta, you know what I mean? Like you're just used to that. And you don't realize it until you go somewhere else and it's not the same. And you're like,
exactly.
Wait, where we at, y'all? Blink
Even
twice
coming
and
to LA, when I first got interested, I was like, oh, I'm kind of spoiled.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't a lot of us.
In certain spaces, you got to be in the South LA, like, south of the 10. And, that's where family members of mine and other friends who are there, they kind of introduce you to. But it's like, you got to know. Yeah. And if you don't, you'll be like, where are we at?
Right.
So that's fire. That's
exactly.
fire. That kind of leads me to jumping in a little bit to a question, because like you come from that diverse background, and then growing up high school in Memphis, you saw a lot of that. Your work ranges so many different, platforms, different areas, different topics. What's it like working on, these Black spaces and creating like a community for Black joy? Because that's where really like, if you just look at your grid on your social media, you're like, man, this is creative, this is fire, this is fly, this is us. What do you do? How do you do that?
Man, honestly, it's kind of how I grew up. Again, kind of going back, like, I know, like, both of my parents did go to the military, but I say it all the time, like, if my mom had the luxury, being the 70s baby, to do the millennial things that we're doing, she probably would have been like an art collector. Like, her house has art everywhere. I grew up going to see ballets because my sister's a ballet dancer. We grew up going to museums. We didn't have a lot. We didn't have, J's on our feet, but we had vacations, and we went to the Bahamas, and we went to New York. Like, we went to all these different places because she didn't want us to be limited to just one thing. She wanted us to kind of be different.
Yeah.
And my dad was like a tailor. He makes clothes and does all these different things. So I was kind of forced in this environment just by who my parents were and who my family is. Yeah. And I also come from like a long lineage of just Black power activists, like people who were in, those different communities in the 70s and 80s. So it wasn't like a social media thing. It really was how I grew up. So even in high school, people were like, oh, you have natural hair, or you must be Erykah Badu. Like, that's how you live. So I'm like, my hair just grow like this. I didn't think that I was trying to be different or make like a political statement. It's just what I grew up seeing. So
I'm authentic.
That's just how my life was.
What sparked the film industry? Because obviously, you have that creative background, but then military, right? And then, kind of seeing the different things. You said you're exposed to a lot of different things. What was it that really said, I maybe want to work in TV and film? Not even starting editing, but like TV and film.
Man, I have to give a shout outs to my mentor, Ron Crawford. Okay. In high school, I kind of had like a troubled teenager type stage, just rebel without a cause. I was getting in trouble a lot, but I ended up going to clean up like the church. So every time I got suspended or got in trouble, my mom was like, you ain't finna stay in my house. You finna do something. So I was just cleaning up the church one day, and Ron Crawford, he came to me. He was over the media team at the church, or the media ministry, as we say in the South. Everything is a ministry.
It's a ministry, for sure.
So he was like, well, you're not bad. You just need something to do. So this is kind of the time where churches were starting to be on TV. You saw mega churches starting to pop up everywhere. Right. And we obviously were kind of becoming that in the church that I was at. And, he put me behind the cameras, and I went into the media booth, and I saw a switcher for the first time and all that. And I always was creative. I was really into like fashion and music. But when I got into film, I was like, oh, this is lit. I'm like, I want to do this. So when he put that camera in my hand, I was just like, okay, this makes sense. And he also showed me like, you can do anything. You can do theater, you could do weddings, you could do conventions, you could do concerts. And that's what he was doing at the time. He would take me on the road outside of what he was doing for the church. Like he would do concerts or conventions or, little stuff around the city. And I was just like, I want to be this man when I grow up. This is the dopest thing I ever seen in my life. So I ended up getting a scholarship. I was researching schools, trying to figure out what I wanted to do because we didn't really have like YouTube like that yet. And the rest is history. I was just like, I want to do this. Whatever this is, that's it.
Come on. So what was the first, gig opportunity that you were able to get once, you did school and all of that, like I want to do this, is it a class that you took? Because sometimes people say, oh, I went to school for this. And then I just took an editing class while I was becoming a director. And I was like, oh, I have all the footage. I can kind of shape the narrative.
Yeah.
I'm in control. Oh, I like that.
Absolutely. So I went to somewhat of like a creative trade school, the Art Institute.
Yeah.
A lot of them aren't around anymore. Shout outs to my degree. I don't know if it's relevant, but it really kind of emerged me into like other creatives who also had as much passion that I was into. Because initially when I applied for the school, I went for fashion.
Well, okay.
And then once I got there, I went to the one in Fort Lauderdale. I saw that they had a film department. It was a little more expensive, so I had to beg my mama, to make her realize what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, this is again, I'm falling, I was still doing it in high school and a little bit in college, but once I got to that school, I was like, this is it. But once I got into the film program, I'm like, I want to be a writer-director because obviously that's the only thing that we know exists outside of camera operators. And this is 2008 or 9 at the time. So I don't know, I don't know what these things are. And I went through the whole program. I got an associate's degree and it was my editing basics class because they kind of expose you to everything of what you want to do. And I went to the editing class, and of course, I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is a lot.
Right, it's a lot.
I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So I think we end up doing just like the classic editing project where they make you take a movie trailer and it's like, if it's an action movie, make it a romance movie or make it a comedy, just kind of make it a different genre. Yeah. And I don't know which one I did. I think I made The Hangover like a romantic film or something. And then I did another commercial where it was like a car crash commercial or something that they had us edit. And my teacher was like, these are some of the best edits that I've ever seen any student do in 10 years. And I was just like, I'm not finna be an editor. He's like, you should really go into editing. And I'm just like, why? No, who wants to edit? Like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I can't be the best editor you've seen. Like, stop. I want to be a writer-director. I'm going to be the next Gina Prince Bythewood. We all know that. Right. So let's just do that. And he was like, no. So he started to tailor my classes more towards editing. And then I started like editing a lot of my friends' projects and I just started developing this reputation. I was saying edit babe back then. Come on. But I started developing this reputation where it was like, if you want something edited, go to Chassidy because she fast, she gonna do it, it's gonna be dope. And then it just kind of became my thing. And I really found in love with it. Like you said, it's such a creative process. You get all the footage. It can have its stressors, but to me, I feel like it's the most creative because you can freak it. You can do whatever you want with it. Right. So
what do you feel like that's a fire story? And just like, we always like to hear the beginnings because it's one of the most unique professions where
very much
a lot of people that I've spoken with, so I won't say the whole audience, but a lot of people that we've spoken with didn't intend to get into editing. And then they end up editing and loving it and doing it at a high clip. What would you say was a skill set that maybe you felt like helped you become a better editor, or even now that you use? And it's like, oh yeah, when I'm talking to other people, when I'm mentoring people, I kind of notice this thing sticks out.
Something that makes me like a stronger editor.
Yeah, like maybe it's a personality trait or a skill set that you have, something you picked up on.
Yeah, I would say probably starting off in live production, I would say is what made me a better editor because it's quick turnarounds. And especially when I was doing like concerts and stuff. At that time, now we have like social media and all those different things. Right. But back in the day, you had like the artist websites. So one of my first big jobs coming out of college was on the Chris Brown tour.
Okay.
So we would have to like produce these full recaps for it to go online the next day. So I think trying to build that excitement and pull all these different clips, I didn't really know that I was an experimental editor or this fast-paced, choppy editor. I'm like, I just got to throw all this on timeline, make it exciting. It has to be 30 seconds, and it's due like tonight to go on the website. So I think kind of being under pressure, unfortunately, kind of made me a better editor. And then just trying to reproduce the feelings that I would feel. Like, if you really look at my style, it's really churchy. Like, it's very churchy. It's like, how do I build that emotion of when people are like shouting or, you know, or really getting into the spirit, or they're yelling at Chris Brown and they want him to take his shirt off and they're so excited. Like, how do I produce that feeling in an edit? So I think just kind of organically being in environments that were really exciting and very fast paced and such a rush kind of translated into my editing style.
That is very vivid and a great description, and you're hired. That's why people want you. They want you. They're like, we need you. You work. You're fast paced. You see it. You get it, and you want to invoke that feeling. And I think that's what it is. You know, when people ask like, why do you act? Why do you write? Why do you direct? It's a feeling that we've all had from seeing something on television or in a movie theater. And it's like, I want to make people feel like that with what I do.
Yes.
Now, you're talking about Chris Brown's tour. The thing that people sometimes want to know and need to know, how did you even get that call? How did you get the job? Like, it's like one thing to like work on it, but like, how do you get the call? Who is? People always say it's who you know, and I'm like, no, it's who knows you.
That's very true.
Like, you can know everybody.
Exactly.
But the right person needs to know you and give you the call and maybe get the plug and get the ball rolling. So how did that even come about?
Man.
Just a quick segue.
This is just who I am, so I'm going to apologize now. So when I was in college, me and my roommate used to do this thing where we would like crash sets. And sorry, Mom. But there was this concert called Jazz in the Gardens in Miami Gardens. They still do it to this day. And there wasn't as much security back then. This is like 2008. I mean, they had security, but it was like, if you got a crew shirt on, they trust you. Yeah. So we would get crew shirts or make crew shirts, and we would just like go on set and act like we worked there. I promise you, kids, do not do this today, because they not gonna play with you.
POSTINBLACK does not. Nah, we not staying for that one. But that's fine.
Yes. So this one particular concert, like, we set crashed. It was like, we work for Mary J. Blige, whatever. Like, I had a homeboy who was a security guard because I was also a bartender at the time. Like, I'm trying to make ends meet, whatever. Right. So he let us in there, and we were, just actually working. Right. Not getting paid, but we was working. And I met this guy named Ty Phillips. Shout out to Ty. He has supported me my entire career. And he was like, do you have a business card? I'm like, I ain't got no business card. Like, here's my card or whatever. Funny enough, literally 2 months later, he ends up hitting me up. He was like, hey, we need an editor for this tour. And I think at the time I was 20. He was like, are you 21? I was like, I'd be 21 during the tour. I ain't 21, but And he was like, well, our switchboard operator, his wife is about to have a baby, and we need somebody who knows how to work the switchboard, but can you also edit? Like, we need a lot of stuff done. Can you, hop on this tour? And I'm like, I'm fresh out of college. I don't have a job. Yeah. Yes, I can hop on the tour. Like, where you want me to be? It's fine, So randomly, that's how I got that opportunity. But I was always just a hustler, like meeting people, whatever. Like, Miami is a small town. It's not like a big film market, but a lot of people come through there. And again, I was bartending. So I would give my card to anybody, talk to anybody, have my camera in my hand. And they're like, oh, you a camera person? Do you do this? Do you do that? Just give my information to anybody. And people will actually hit you up. So I tell my students all the time, like, don't be out here acting shy and not speaking to people. Like, you never know how these opportunities are going to follow back with you.
You have no clue. You have no clue. That's fire. And that is dope. And it's ambitious. You got to respect it.
For sure.
grind and the hustle, you know,
For
that grusher
sure.
on that reel. You was out there.
I was outside.
I ain't mad at it.
You gotta get a job.
You gotta be in the mix, you know? And
You do.
You just gotta put
do.
yourself out there and like, hey, let me get in the door. People have listened to the podcast may know or have heard before, but like my first job when I got to LA, I worked, my second job, I worked at the Kodak Theater. And that's where the Oscars were. And I didn't know the job that I was applying for was even there. I just said, I wonder if I could work where the Oscars are. So I found an email on the website. I emailed them, said, hey, are you guys hiring for anything? And they're like, tour guide. And I was like, oh, I'm an actor. Was a tour guide, went to the Oscars every year I've been in LA. Just by it's not even a job that's you can apply for. Mm-hmm. But it's something that, you know, you're just looking like, I wonder if I could get in there.
Yes.
And next thing you know, you in there and then just maybe something else happens. Mm-hmm. So very, very interesting. Yes. Very interesting. So we're going to jump around a little bit because, you know, if we talk about everything that you do, you know, I mean, just most recently, the Super Bowl, the Usher promo, yes. You know, the Renaissance to a promo. If y'all don't know what the Renaissance is, you betcha it's Beyonce. You feel me? Where have you been? All of these different projects that you've had the ability to work on, we're going to talk about them, but I want to talk about the aspect that you live in Memphis.
Yes.
A lot of people are wondering, man, do I have to live in LA? Do I have to live in New York? Do I have to live in Atlanta to make it? How did those opportunities come about? Obviously, your career, you're well-versed in it, but how did that come about? And was there ever a desire to move from where you were in order to like continue in a career? Yeah,
I think I did get to a point where I was like, do I have to move to LA? Do I have to go to New York? And I tried. Mm-hmm. Like I tried to come out here. Again, like I have a lot of musician friends and stuff who are out here. But it didn't work for some reason. Like it just didn't work for me. And I had to realize like, okay, everybody's path is not everybody's path.
For sure.
So at that time, when I was kind of trying to peek around and see what was up, like I was in Miami and I realized that, you know, a lot of people would find me either through a reference or social media, whatever the case may be, mostly references, would find me and they're like, well, we want you. And even though you're not here, like we'll fly you out or we'll ship you a drive. So even before the pandemic, I was working virtually like since 2016. Like that wasn't an uncommon thing for me or something that I was forced to do. I was always either traveling somewhere or I was getting stuff shipped to me. Yeah. So I guess I got kind of spoiled or I got lucky. But once it started to really pick up, like especially when I got with Parallax, that's the company who did everything everywhere, I was like, I guess I'm going to stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
Fly me out if you need me.
For sure. Yeah.
But it kind of organically happened. And then once I moved to Memphis, like my goal is to also build that community as well. Right. But also like me working virtually or, you know, getting, you know, like I'm here now in LA, flying to all these different places. It just made more sense. Yeah. Like it didn't. I kind of lost that desire to be fully in the mix. No. It was just like, I could get a plane ticket.
But and it's fire. And I tell people that too. Like I love LA, you know, but it's not for everybody. And then that's why they have planes. You can get to where you need to be. But I think it's encouraging for people who are watching or listening to know that there's opportunities for them potentially, you know, not just based in a major city. Because some people are like, man, I'm working in Charlotte, North Carolina, or I'm doing something in Raleigh, Durham, where our business partners are. Shout out to the Durham. But like, it's how do we navigate that? What advice do you give for them to even connect with people in the industry if they're not in a quote unquote major market?
Yeah, I would say definitely fly out to these places and network. That would be number one. And also, I would also say cold email. Kind of similar to what you did. Like, hey, I just want to see if I could work here. Like, do y'all have a position? I did the same thing with Parallax. It was literally right before the pandemic hit, like, hey, I ain't working just like nobody else. Y'all want to hire me? I think we did something in the past because we actually did kind of have a slight connection. And I'm like, they not going to email me back because I was emailing everybody. But a week later, they like, yes, what's up? Okay, I think I know you, but I don't know if I know you, but we like your work. You fit. Let's do some work.
How can we make this happen?
So I tell people all the time, like, don't be afraid to cold email anybody. If you are in the UK, if you are in Louisiana and you want to hit up a production company that's in LA or New York, you'll be very surprised that they will hit you back. Because number one, it's not a lot of us, not a lot of good editors in general. It's very hard to find a good editor. Black, white, alien, it's hard to find good editors. But on top of having a certain style or being a minority, like they are constantly looking for people. So you don't have to be any specific place, especially as far as post-production, to really be able to be successful. They just want somebody good and who can get the job done. So they don't care where you at.
They want it done.
Especially in today's society. Like,
no, for sure. You know, with everything happening, the strikes and, you know, all that, and even like you mentioned, the pandemic, you know, one of the projects that you worked on, which spiked my interest because obviously being a sports fan, you know, you working with the NBA.
Yes.
You know, you already working from home. I think that kind of led to being a huge plus for the pandemic, because I didn't know that. So how did that even come about? Are you a sports fan in general? You know,
I am.
Okay.
So I am I used to be a really big athlete. I was a swimmer.
Yeah.
And my entire family is full of athletes, professionals and just in general. Like growing up in South Florida, everybody is playing a sport. Yeah. Like football and basketball.
South Florida, forget about it. Texas, like, and California. Y'all got it.
Yes.
Y'all got it locked.
They breed players down there. So my general interest in sports was just like, this is how I grew up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
For sure.
And a girl on Twitter. Again, you never know when people are going to hit you up. Like a girl on Twitter who knew a girl who I went to high school with was like, hey, I got your information from Jada. You know, the bubble is happening and all these different things. We've been looking for an editor. She was telling me that you already have a setup, because I was just renting out like some studio time, and I had just got an apartment downtown and I already kind of had a setup and everything. And she was like, would you be interested? Because initially I was going to do the WNBA.
Okay, yeah.
But she ended up quitting and was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to refer you to the NBA because they still need people. Because I was supposed to produce a whole series and they wanted me to do like full production.
Oh, man.
But she was like, well, the NBA is looking for editors. I'm finna bounce, but go to them because they still need people. So she referred me to the NBA. I ended up getting the doggone job. And then they were like, well, we need somebody who has more experience, who understands what we're trying to do. Do you think that you could be senior editor? And I'm just like, who do these people think I am?
The one. You've been chosen, Neo.
I've never been like, what?
You've been chosen.
Are y'all sure? Have you seen my, I mean, it's nice resume. But no. Senior, like be over the whole team. It was like, yeah, we need you to produce and send I was just like, okay, all right. And of course, with like the media and everything that was happening at that time, like the media made a whole thing out of it, like the first Black woman to be, you know, senior, which was beautiful and amazing. But it also pissed me off because I was just like, how am I the first? Are y'all 2020? Serious?
Yeah.
Like, okay. But it also sparked a plug in me to be like, okay, I have to start doing more initiatives because I know it's not a lot of us, but now it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
So as proud as I am of that position is as much of a fire that it lit inside of me.
Right.
So it was great.
No, that's amazing. And that's really just an incredible story. And it's like, when you stay, I mean, the phrase is used all the time. You know, you stay ready, wanted to get ready. But it legitimately
for real.
It legitimately is real.
Yes.
It's like you just stay excellent at what you do, and people will find you. Have to put yourself out there, but people will find you.
They will.
And then when the call comes, you're ready.
Yes.
And that's what I'm hearing, you know, with you, just your path is like, look, I was doing this, I was prepared, I was just meeting, and then next thing I know, I got the call and opportunity struck, and, you know, don't let it go. I mean, that's the fire. You know, you just let us know what promos we need to promote and shout out and show love to, because that's just awesome. And you talk about the fire, which leads to, you know, Black Girls Film Camp, you know, Edit Bay, and, you know, Crown Me Royal Lab. Like, you know, can you talk about, you know, those are 3 different initiatives all going crazy. But can you talk about first just Black Girls Film Camp, you know? Talk about that.
Black Girls Film Camp. Shout outs to Black Girls Film Camp, my babies.
We got love for them,
man.
for sure. Yeah.
I love them so much. I mean, what Jamaica and Sierra are doing, the founders of that camp, who also are out of Charlotte. I mean, she started the camp because her daughter wanted to learn how to do film. and she couldn't find any program that was for her. So she developed a whole camp just for girls to learn filmmaking, and just coming into the process in the early stages of them just trying to figure out what they want to do, understanding the importance of all the departments. Right. So pre-production, post-production, actual production. Like, it's been such a beautiful experience. Like, we're here this week. We're doing the LA retreat. So this is the first time that we actually meet in person. And we're going to take them to USC. We're going to learn them, you know, their camera skills. We get to tap in. They actually are going to production right after this camp. So it's been such a blessing to be a part of the camp. We get probably like 200 to 300 applicants now who want to apply for this camp. We accept 10 girls, so it's 10 teen directors, and we build a full team around those directors. So they'll get a producer, they'll get a production coach, they'll get an editor, they'll get an alumni coach from a girl who was in the previous camp. This is our 4th year, so very exciting. And the films are dope. Like, the ideas that these girls come up with are beautiful.
I'm sure.
Like, they are telling such alternative, beautiful stories. And I'm just like, it reminds me when I was 15. Like, look at these girls. They have so much. I mean, it's not even like, okay, I'm going to camp, and I'm just like, they're like, no, I want to do this. Like,
and there's like an age range that you have too, right?
Yes. It's 15 to 18.
18, for sure.
So teen directors, high school directors.
And this right here is just part of the mentorship. Was it something that you had a goal of yours by not seeing other people in the industry like yourself, and like wanting to, like, okay, there's not many women. I'm the first in the NBA. Okay, we need to change this. Was that really like the fire that lit that?
Absolutely. Okay. That was definitely the spark that was like, okay, you need to kind of step outside the editing booth and be more proactive about this. Like, it's great to be an editor and have all these accomplishments, but if I'm the first and the last, like, that's a problem. So you have to be more intentional about kind of like passing the torch. So when they came to me, I actually just applied to be like an editor. Like, a friend of mine referred me to them. They were, I think it was like the first year they were actually doing it. And we met, and they were like, nah, we need you on the staff. Like, with your resume, like, we need you to come in and like make some stuff shake. And we have an amazing board who have also great connections in the industry. We've had Gina Prince Bythewood talk to the girls. We've had Ruth Carter just talk to the girls last week. Like, people are really getting interested
Shout out to
in this.
Hampton,
like,
Ruth Carter.
Yes.
That's our alum. We love Ruth.
She definitely talked about it.
Oh, Hampton
Y'all don't play
Come
about
on.
the real HU.
Come on. We the real one. Talk to me
Y'all don't
nice.
play.
Black Girls Film Camp said it. I didn't say it. They said it.
Exactly. So it's a dope experience, and it's growing, and we just we got our first girl from Australia. Like, now we're going international, which is like, it's just a blessing,
it's powerful. Man. It's a blessing. And then, you know, even taking that and then what you're doing with Edit Bay Post. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I've seen it from afar, but I just think that's such a cool, you know, novelty and just like a staple in what your legacy will be, creating your own post house. Can you talk a little bit more about that, how that came about?
Oh, man, Edit Bay Post.
Yeah.
Also growing, which I was just like, okay, I'm going to put myself out here, not just as an editor, but as a full service post company. Like, how people going to take this? Because I realized, even me being an editor, like, once I got into my own and wasn't necessarily under agency anymore, I'm like, okay, I need help. Like, I need an AE. So I end up hiring an AE. And then people were like, well, can you do everything? Can you do color? Can you do sound? This? I'm like, yeah, I got a friend who's a sound man. Yeah, I know what colors. And it kind of happened on accident, but it just happened. I'm like, okay, I need to make this a full company, because I can't just be writing this off as self-person, you know? Like, but it happened, and I was like, you know what? This makes sense. This is what I probably should have been doing a while ago, but it just happened, and it took off, and one call turned into 3 calls, that turned into 5 calls, that turned into 7 calls. And once the word got out there, it just started coming to me. So
is it more so like, obviously people may come to you now, but then you say, okay, well, we're going to just do this through my company, and you have everything coming through that. So like, okay, will you take on like a show, a scripted or something like that, and you just fund it, you know, work on it from in-house more so?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So there are some companies that I still have relationships with, and they just may want me as an editor.
Yeah.
But 75% of the work that I get now, even if it's through the NBA or whatever, like it's Edit Bay Post, and they hire all of us to do all the finishing, all the everything.
Come on, that's a testimony, a dream. That's
it really is. It almost feels like a dream I never even dreamt. Like, because I thought starting a post house or starting a production company is such an ambitious idea. Like, even renting space is very lucrative. It's very expensive, and I'm just like, is this even realistic? But things started to fall into place. My friend had a studio. He was like, well, we got a room. I kind of need somebody to rent. And I'm like, duh, sign me up, please.
Don't tell me twice.
Thank you so much. Here's your check.
Yeah.
And it just started to come together. And then girls who would just randomly email me again, you know, going back to cold emailing, like, hey, I'm an editor. I saw this online. Like, here's my work or whatever. Like, shout out to Jasmine Lewis. Like, I end up hiring her. She works with me now.
Shout out to Jazz.
So
Jazz the editor. Yeah. We love it.
It's happening. And I'm like, it makes sense. I think people are kind of being intentional about hiring minorities. But at the same time, like, we're just good editors. Yeah. And we can do this just like anybody else. And we have spaces and we have equipment and we have experience. So we're legit.
And you're hitting on something. And obviously, with this conversation flowing, we're not going to take up all your time. But like, what you're saying about we're just good editors, I think that's what we've been saying in so many different arenas. You know, I don't want to be, you know, oh, I'm a great black actor. I'm a great actor.
Exactly.
I don't want to be just a great black voice. No, I'm great. Like, I love being black. I'm black every day, all day. Wouldn't change it for nothing.
Can't take it off.
You feel me? Can't at all. But it's like, I just want you to see me for this, and let's get to it.
Absolutely.
Why does it have to be all these other things? So we're representing for our culture, but we also just want to be seen as that.
Absolutely.
You're doing a great work. You're doing a great work. And then that's the second of three. Because Crown Me Royal, I'm like, this is a festival. This is where I have some family members that moved from New York to Memphis like 10 years ago.
And my gosh.
They from the city and they've been in Memphis years. So it's like, I can get down there.
Okay.
And I can get down there. But
Come
like,
what's Memphis,
happening?
Tennessee.
You know, I need to be down there. What's going on? Tell us about Crown Me Royal and just a little bit what sparked that.
Crown Me Royal Labs, that is my baby. Okay. That is my first child, so to speak. And that's an interesting story because Crown Me Royal Labs, I used to go by Crown Me Royal. That was like my MySpace name. That was my Twitter
Shout
handle.
out
like,
MySpace.
Crown Me Royal, you know, like that was my thing. Crown me. Like I'm royalty type situation. But it started because my first short film was called Brown Ballerina. Yep. And it got selected to Toronto Shorts. But after that, I didn't really, because I was like 24, 25 at the time. I didn't understand fully how Hollywood worked as far as like producing something. Because again, I'm an editor. I'm like, I don't know how to sell or pitch or the festival runs. Like, oh, that's the only festival? Ain't nobody else that we didn't get selected nowhere else? Okay. All right. I'm going to go back home.
Talk about it. Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's a real thing. Yeah. So we started putting on our own shows centered around the film. So we would show the film. I would have a ballet dancer. We would have some DJs and some music. We'll have somebody doing live painting because that's what all of my friends were. Like, okay, my hands, he's the photographer. JD, he's going to do the live painting. My sister's going to dance. My boyfriend at the time, like, he's going to do, you know, a poem or whatever. And people were just like, we never seen an art show like this. Like, this was super dope. And I called it Visuals and Vibes. Yeah. Where, you know, you get the visual and you get the vibe. And people liked it so much in South Florida where we end up continuing to do it. We did a whole tour. We went to Memphis. We went to Atlanta. We went to Denver. We went to Brooklyn. Like, people just loved this show where it was all these different genres of art. And me kind of being like an art nerd and me going to art shows, it's like, it's either cheese and crackers with stuff on canvas or it was, you know, it was a great show, but then it was over. It was like, even going to Art Basel, I'm like, there was no vibe to it. Essentially, it was just visuals. So I end up continuing to produce this show under Crown Me Royal Labs, which I didn't even really make a thing. But on my pages, people were just following it, and we would continue to do the shows. I would show old movies. I did a series called Serial Inflicts, where we would show like old movies and literally have cereal like you was at your grandma's house.
Come on.
We were doing all types of stuff. And I'm constantly coming up with things to just, you know, organically how I was raised and the things that I want to see. But especially when I got to Memphis, of course, again, it's an artist town. So local artists, painters, I've had fire dancers. I always have a pole dancer. Like, we do all types of stuff. It's just this random art show that's just this bucket of blackness and artistry that we throw into it. And people love it. Like, even when I go back, we have visuals and vibes, and we're doing it at a drive-in. So we're going to have a car show with the old school cars. We're going to show some black films. Like, I'm like, this was just this is what I like to do growing up. I feel like y'all used to do this too. So, you know, let's make it a thing. And it's becoming a thing.
It's becoming.
And it's not even mine anymore.
No,
like,
it sounds like
Crown Me Royals is everybody else.
Yeah.
Like,
it sounds like it. I mean, you know what? It's like you're creating, you're taking the culture and you're creating and crafting it, and you're giving the people what they want.
Yes.
You know, Chassidy, what can I do, Jade, in the building? It's fire. No, that's just, that's powerful. And that's like, there's so many different avenues that you're able to attack and create and expose people to while still staying true to you.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really powerful. And it's got to be a freeing, a rewarding feeling. It's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
You know, it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Because I see the passion and the joy that you get from talking about it.
Man, it's the one time that I get to kind of step outside of the Eden Bay, no pun intended. But I get to step outside of the Eden Bay and, like, you know, have fun and actually, you know, physically be in a space with other creatives.
Right.
Like, it's just, it's my go-to. It's my favorite thing.
You have just dropped the mic on so many different things. And, you know, we're gonna get you out of here on two things. One, I just have to ask you, what is it that you see for the future in post and editing? You know, obviously you're telling these young women about the industry, and then you're also working in the industry yourself and noticing trends and changes. What is the future of it from your perspective? What are you seeing coming along, and how are you planning to navigate it?
Man, there is going to be a strong shift of minorities coming into the industry, number one. I definitely see that happening. Kind of what's happening with the WNBA. Like, more attention is going to be on it. It's going to be just as big as the NBA. I do see it because my main goal is, like, removing who we are as people to a certain extent, whereas, like, we're just good at what we do, and the blackness is the sauce. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like there's just going to be a floodgate of black creatives in all industries, especially in post and black, where we're just going to be in there. Yeah. And they're going to be like, where are these black people come from? Hold on. Where am I?
Memphis?
Exactly.
We out here.
Like, especially, you know, with TikTok and Instagram, like, all these young creatives, like, it's going to be a floodgate of us in there. So now we're not having conversations where, oh, y'all just hiring us for Women's Month and Black History Month, but y'all are hiring us because we are good and we are available, and this is who we are.
You're talking about it.
Period. So,
nah, that's fire. And I love that. And obviously, you know, I just think everything that you're doing, you know, we're just going to support it as much as possible. So however we can do that.
You've appreciate it.
No, you've been an amazing guest. One of my producers, she asked this question. Now we had to save it for the end because she said, "What was it like working for the Hennessy project and editing with, you know, Damson Idris and seeing the brother and
man.
Stuff?"
I'm married, but he's a lovely man.
I had to ask that for her. She was just like, "How was it? How long did the edit take?" And she was like, "Yeah." How did that series come back? How was it just working on something that when you see the comments and the chats, you know, is that like, you know, I did that. I sparked that.
Yeah. Man, I love Hennessy. Hennessy is kind of a new client, so I'm literally just now building that relationship with them. But they also are getting a lot more creative. They just got a partnership with the NBA, so that's how the relationship came about. And that cut, I mean, there were a few cuts in there. I would say about a month or so. Yeah. And I was kind of really, really heavy on the project for about 2 weeks. Okay. But that project was just so dope because I'd never seen a series of liquor commercials look like that.
Never.
like the creative direction on that is amazing. Even the stuff with Tiana Taylor, which I was like, why I ain't get the Tiana Taylor one? I want to work with Tiana Taylor. Tiana, hey Tiana.
Come on.
But it was just the creative direction, like it was so amazing. I loved how they were able to kind of tap into this European style of storytelling, so to speak. And it was like weird and different and just like, it was just cool. So that is probably one of my favorite projects I ever worked on. I know some people in film or TV, they don't really tap into the commercial market.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love commercials.
It's there.
Commercials and promos, like it's such a creative process because you can really advertise anything, any type of way.
Yeah.
So how they did it was just really special. And Hennessy is kind of becoming one of my favorite clients.
Come on.
Like, they're so dope.
Well, shout out to you. You are also dope. And we just thank you for your time on Posting Black. Tell us where we can keep in touch with you and just stay tapped in, like social media. Where can people follow you at?
Absolutely. You can follow me at Edit Bay Jade or at Edit Bay Post. You can follow both.
Come on.
And definitely make sure that you're following the Black Girls Film Camp at the Black Girls Film Camp.
Yes. Well, thank you again, Chassidy Jade.
Y'all.
Thank you so much. And we appreciate you all for tuning in to this amazing episode of Posting Black. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Thank you to our sponsor, Dolby Institute, and to Avid for all your support. This would not be possible without you. And until next time, we'll see you. Stay black.